p.m. This time we have the invocation by Pastor Darrell Hooks of Allen Chapel AME Church.
And let us pray. Heavenly Father, we pause this evening to give thanks that things are as well as they are. Praying, Father, that you keep your finger of love upon us. We ask your blessings this afternoon for our community, for our schools, our students, and the faculty that have been entrusted with their educational development. We pray that you keep them safe in their going and in their comings. We ask blessings, Heavenly Father, for those that you have placed in leadership position to govern and to make the best decisions for your people. Instill, Father, in them the spirit to make godly decisions according to your will and your way. Grant them the wisdom and courage to make the right decisions, even when it's not the most popular one to make. Allow them to display in their particular office truth, honesty, and integrity that will enable them to tend to the affairs of the city of Lynnhaven and treat all families fairly and without favor. This we ask in your darling Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance of the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
This time we open the floor for public commentary.
Mayor, can I make a recommendation that we do the proclamation first?
Yes.
Sorry.
Our first proclamation is for Mally Jackson, and it reads, whereas Mally Rudd Jackson, known by her family and community as Big Mama, was born August 4th, 1921, to Jenny and Newton Rudd on a rural farm on the outskirts of Alfred, Florida. And whereas Mally Rudd Jackson married and moved to Chipley, Florida, where she had 4 children, Donnie, Curtis, Jody, and Janice. And whereas Mally Rudd Jackson saved her money from picking cotton for $1 and found a parcel of land in Lynnhaven, Florida, and during tax season paid the land taxes for 2 lots on Alabama Avenue. And whereas Mally Rudd Jackson and her husband became the proud owners of land in Lynnhaven, Florida, and worked evenings to build their house by hand in 1950, where she still resides. And whereas Mally Rudd Jackson was overjoyed to move to the small town of Lynnhaven because it had everything she needed: a drugstore, bank, grocery store, post office, many other shops, and even a jail. And whereas Mally Rudd Jackson has fond memories in Lynnhaven, including being one of the first 2 houses on Alabama Avenue, paving of her dirt roads with black tar, and the enjoyment of fishing with her family off the original Bailey Bridge. And whereas for many years, Mally enjoyed being a volunteer as a poll worker for the elections, baking cakes, sewing clothes, volunteering in the church, playing her guitar, singing in the church choir, and becoming the leader of the choir, traveling with the family singing group, the Jacksons, all over Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, traveling to Israel and riding on a camel during her trip. And whereas Mally Rudd Jackson now finds pleasure in growing flowers on her front porch, watching old Western television shows, completing word search puzzles, and chatting with her family and friends on the phone. And whereas Mally Rudd Jackson is the only member in her family to live to be 100 years of age, loves to sing her favorite gospel song, Never Grow Old, and lives by her motto, the Lord always knows what is best for us. Now, therefore, by the virtue and authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Lynnhaven, and on behalf of the city commission and all the citizens of Lynnhaven, I do hereby recognize Mally Rudd Jackson, Big Mama, on her 100th birthday by proclamation and declare August 4th, 2021 as Mally Rudd Jackson Day In witness whereof, I do hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Lynnhaven to be affixed this 27th day of August, 2021.
What is? I thank everybody for coming out tonight. I didn't know anything about this till just a few minutes ago, but I thank you just the same. I'm just a poor girl from the country that's come there, but I love y'all. I love those people in here. That's the reason I wanted to come to Lynnhaven. I love the people that's in here, and I don't know many of you, but I'm just glad I'm here. And thank you very much for it.
We ask the family if you'll come stand around with the mayor, and he will present the proclamation. Thank you.
Since we have a younger group, this one will not be as long as the previous one. Whereas the Academy of Dance and Performing Arts Dazzler competition team competed against dozens of dance studios from around the country, and whereas the Dazzlers are comprised of young girls throughout Lynnhaven and Bay County from ages 7 to 13 in categories of senior, junior, teen, and many performance competitors, and whereas these young girls are smart, talented, and strive for excellence by dedicating hours of practice time to perfecting their skills and routines, and whereas the Dazzlers were recognized for their prestigious top honors at Showstopper, the Southern National Finals, and the largest dance competition in the country on June the 30th through July the 4th, 2021. And whereas the Dazzlers topped the competition with 3 first-place national championships, 3 second-place overall awards, 2 third-place overall awards, 4 fourth-place overall awards, 2 fifth-place overall awards, 2 sixth-place overall awards, 1 seventh-place overall award, 3 eighth place overall awards, 1 ninth place overall award, and 2 10th place overall awards. And they brought all the trophies to prove it. And whereas the Academy of Dance Dazzlers also received 3 double platinum awards, 20 platinum awards, and 7 gold awards. And whereas we are so proud of how hard they have worked this season representing our community, and we look forward to another great year. Now, therefore, by the virtue and authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Lynnhaven, on behalf of the city commission and all the citizens of Lynnhaven, I do hereby recognize the Academy of Dance and Performing Arts Dazzler competition team by proclamation. In witness whereof, I do hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Lynnhaven to be affixed this 27th day of July, 2021.
you to do a dance for us?
Thank you, girls.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a lot of awards. It's a lot of hard work.
Now we'll go back to item number 3, public commentary. Is there any commentary from the public?
Thank you. Ryan Scrace, 1702 Missouri. I just want to really especially commend and give, kudos to Commissioner Warwick for, really pushing for that pre-meeting. I watched the whole thing on YouTube, or the YouTube video after, and I really think that was, especially for this first one, it was a great meeting. I loved seeing the whole commission be able to just focus on talking through the agenda items and not be worried about making motions or just talking through all the issues and all the possibilities. And I see a big success in it that the ordinance for the special events was updated to exclude residential properties. And I think that's a big win for Lynnhaven. And I do feel that came directly from the effort he did on researching that, and all of the commissioners to agree to do those pre-meetings. So just, kudos to all of you for giving it a try and for all the hard work you put in to make that happen. I think it's a win for the citizens of Lynnhaven, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Additional commentary? You have to come to the mic and state your name and address, please.
Cindy Shutt. I live at 125 Landings. We want to know, does that include an HOA having like a block party on our own? We have a 1-acre park.
And actually, you can ask that question during the time that we discuss the ordinance.
Okay, so I just wanted a clarification when you said excluding residential.
Right, that will be
Okay.
something we'll clarify during that discussion time. Public commentary is for discussing items that are not on the agenda.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Marcus, and regarding the event permit, is private businesses, will they also be excluded from this? Is that something that's going to be, it's been added?
Yeah, but like I said, we'll discuss that when we get to that agenda item.
Okay, all right, I wasn't sure, so just wanted my voice to be heard. Thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
Additional public commentary? All right, moving on to the mayor's report. Looking forward to the 3-on-3 basketball tournament that's coming up on this Saturday. Thank you to everyone in the city, the staff, the city manager, everyone who's worked very hard to pull this tournament together for our entire community. Very exciting. Thank you to all the sponsors who've been able to support this. And so we're just very excited about it. So it's encouraging everyone to come out on Saturday, 8 o'clock for the basketball tournament, and just watch our children ages 7 to 16 come together and just have a great day of celebration of going back to school. Had a chance to attend a few events. Had a chance to attend the Kitty Car Show that was hosted by Mr. Robert Stewart at Kane Griffin Park. Seemed to be a very successful event, very well attended, free food for everyone that was in Kane Griffin Park. He actually gave out some Power Wheels to different kids. Some children took Power Wheels home, and so that was a good family-oriented, community-friendly event. So we're thankful for him and his sponsorship of that in our community. Had a chance to attend the debt review committee, and they're going to be making a presentation to us in August with their findings and suggestions. And so The committee is going pretty well right now, and just seems as if they're really working with staff to develop different solutions that could be viable for us moving forward as it relates to managing our debt. Also had a chance to come in on the tail end of the Charter Review Committee, and so they had their first committee meeting this past week, and so looking forward to what comes from that Charter Review Committee over this next year as it relates to updating our charter. You'll be seeing some announcements within this week. I'll be hosting a morning with the mayor for those that like to get up early and do things before they go to work. So I'll be hosting that. And then in November, I'll actually be hosting a town hall. And so those are two events that'll be coming up that you'll be receiving some flyers about through our social media campaigns. That is it for my report. Commissioner Aldridge, anything to report?
Thank you, Mayor. It's been pretty much just business as usual for my last couple of weeks. Of course, that Ordinance 1115 that everybody knows, I answered, a ton of emails, got phone calls pertaining to that. But I'm glad we were able to work that out. That's what we're here for, is to deliberate and try to figure out what's best for the citizens and what they want. So we did take that very seriously. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all I had going on, and that's the end of my report, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Perno?
No report, just thank you to all the citizens and all of our city employees and first responders.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Yes, one of the things, obviously that was commented earlier, was the pre-commission meeting. I thought it went really well, and I'm glad that we're doing it, and I hope we continue to do it in the future. I think we can brainstorm a lot of ideas and bounce ideas back and forth. The other thing I started to do was I did a meet the commissioner this past Saturday. I did it the day after the pre-commission meeting. Hope get some feedback from the residents, and I had a whole whopping one person show up, but that's good. Even if no one shows up, I'd like to have the option there, so they can always feel free to talk to me in person. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. And I did get an opportunity to go watch a kickball game. I actually got to watch Ryan's great team lose again. And I was surprised at how competitive it is. It's a very competitive sport, so a lot of emotions out there. And as we talked about earlier, I did answer a lot of emails and phone calls and Facebook messages about the ordinance we're going to talk about later, and I hope we have a solution that residents will be satisfied with. And that's my report.
Thank you. Yeah, I watched a couple of kickball games last night and actually talked to the head official, and he said, yeah, it gets pretty intense out there for a kids game. He said it gets really intense. But it was great to watch everybody play and have fun, and to know that our city was able to provide that opportunity for adults to have something fun to do in the summer. So I really enjoyed it last night as well. Commissioner Tender?
Thank you. Basically, the last week or so since the pre-meeting, of which I have to say I was very impressed with. I enjoyed it. I felt that we were all very comfortable in just having a conversation around the table, and I think we cut through a lot of stuff that we would not do during a commission meeting. So hats off to Jamie. I think it was a great idea. I've honestly spent the last 2 weeks serving lunch over Ordinance 1115. So I've had much conversation about this for the last 2 weeks, and I'm sure it'll get brought up during that reading. And that's about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. First, let me ask Kiki if she'll come up and answer any questions she may have about the financial report.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Next, we are in budget mode. We've been there for about two months, working with each department and really going through our budget very, very finely and fine-tuning a lot of things within our budget. And of course, that whole budget season will start in September as we get closer to it, and definitely we'll keep you updated. Spending a lot of time with the state and with FEMA on our reimbursements that seem to be coming along pretty good. You'll be happy to know that we did meet our deadline for April 19th for all the 428 projects, and those projects are just in that same place they were 2 weeks ago, but the money's there. So it's just a matter of coming through those departments so that we can start on our buildings. Table Talk is Thursday at 5:30, and we'll be talking about the first cornerstone for the city, which is infrastructure, and want to hear feedback from our citizens about infrastructure and the infrastructure needs within the city and suggestions and so on. So we look forward to seeing you on Thursday at 5:30. And then lastly, we do have a check from Tetra Tech. And normally these are done together, but sometimes they come in after a commission meeting. So this check here is for $45,206. And just remember that all of this is reimbursable. They give us a total amount of 50%, and then at the end, they'll give us all of it. So we do get all of this money back.
Is the table talk going to be here?
It will be in the Garden Club.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any additional questions, City Manager? All right, thank you, City Manager. All right, City Attorney? This time, for our consent agenda, minutes from 7/13/21, regular meeting minutes, and the item number 9, approval to give Mayor Nelson and the City Manager authority to negotiate a final settlement from the insurance carrier, Pidgeot, for the Hurricane Michael claim. There's a motion needed to approve consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. City Manager, would you call the vote?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. All right. Agenda item number 10, final reading for Ordinance 1115, City of Lynnhaven Special Events Ordinance providing for the regulation of special events in the City of Lynnhaven. City Attorney, are there any comments you'd like to make on this?
Well, as some people may have seen, we did have our workshop Friday, and so as a result of that workshop, we did propose a few changes, and one of them is highlighted in our summary, but we did add language specifically stating that a private residential property shall not be considered an event venue. Therefore, this is not going to apply to private residential property. We also changed the threshold for a small event where it's 50 to 100. So again, if you do have an event less than 50, whether it's on private property, not residential, again that's excluded, but commercial property or public park, 50 is before you would have to have over 50 before you'd even think about coming to get a special event permit. Those are the two big changes. We did eliminate the word organize, so it is just staging or promoting or conducting an event. I think those are the three changes we've had in between first reading and today for your consideration.
All right. Commissioner Perno?
I just wanted to echo Ms. Shutt's question to the city attorney. Does this include the common area of a residential neighborhood, like
HOA?
like a clubhouse and pool area and stuff?
Yeah, it would. I mean, just
Okay.
like it would a a store or a restaurant. If you're
The exclusion, the residential exclusion includes that or no?
No. I think you
So
would
someone
still,
in-
if you had a clubhouse at an HOA and you're exceeding the capacity of the clubhouse and those, however you set up your special event, and again, this is written where you could have clubhouse and the outdoor area and across the street, and it's all organized, and again, it's organized as a special event. If you're going to exceed the capacity and the parking and require the city's services, those are, again, the only circumstances you're going to come into play. What we excluded was, houses, private residential property, not common areas.
I'd like to ask the other commissioners what they think about that.
I'd be happy to speak to it. First of all, I feel like an apartment complex and whatnot, that's private property. But, so I don't necessarily agree at all with the HOA thing. I thought on Friday's meeting that we had come to an agreement that the ordinance, it was going to say the ordinance does not apply to private property. And now it says this ordinance does not apply to private residential property. And so where does that leave the people who have businesses? That's my private property, or I own that property. So what does that open up as far as if that's not included, if business property is not included, what does that mean to me?
It's not excluded. That means if you want to take your restaurant and the parking lot or adjacent area or whatever and hold a special event, which means if you have capacity for 75 people in your restaurant, which, I mean, you know what your capacities are, but if you want to say, look, I'm going to take my restaurant and some room outside or next door and have 500 people here, you would have to come get a special events permit. If you're just going to have whatever you can fit in your restaurant, you never have to think about it.
Okay. And what about, I know that we also stated in this, in the ordinance, that I call them pop-ups, but I don't know what we called it technically. So what if my neighbor was having entertainment and whatnot, and let's say his restaurant or his business holds 40 people, and he has more than 40, and some of them are out on the sidewalk. Does that turn into a special event?
If you wind up exceeding, and again, if you know you could say the capacity of the sidewalk is obviously different than what's in that restaurant, so it's still going to be included in the additional capacity. So if his capacity is 75, but you've got people indoors and outdoors and in the parking lot, well, your capacity is going to be much higher. So only if it's to the point where you're exceeding whatever that reasonable capacity is. So in the way this works, if something just spontaneously happens, obviously somebody from the city or the police department or nobody's going to know about it until somebody calls it in. The city shows up and makes a determination if you're way over capacity for whether it's your restaurant or parking lot or sidewalk next door, and they ask you to bring it back under your threshold. And that's how the pop-ups would work.
Yeah.
And if you can't, and if it really is a big event, then we get involved.
There are many times, well, not many, that's an exaggeration, I won't say many. There have been numerous times where Roberts Hall is holding an event, whether it's a wedding reception or whatever, and they're well under their capacity, which I believe is like 298 people or something. They're well under their capacity, but they will come out, and we have even taken some of our tables and moved them out on the sidewalk for them or over in front, or they can sit in front of our place because we're not open, Now, where will that leave them?
If they're under their capacity, and all that would do is increase even more capacity, so it wouldn't
long
matter.
as they're under capacity, they're good.
Right, and again, an event venue is not just limited to the four corners of your business. That's for every business owner to know what their capacity is for indoor, but a special event venue can include adjacent properties across the street, across right-of-ways. So it's a planned special event. Now, if you have the spontaneous ones, again, you would come out there if somebody calls it in, they would look and say, well, hey, we've got sidewalk space, parking lot space, plus they've got 200 inside, and that just increases the amount of capacity, so it wouldn't trigger a special event.
So why are we including them? Why are we including businesses?
In the event they want to have 500 people there, and they can only fit 250, and they've got the neighbor joined in and the person across the street joined in, and they want to plan a special event, instead of having somebody call in and complain, they can come get a permit, and we would know, all right, you're going to be at Roberts Hall and next door in the parking lot and across the street, and this is the confines of the special event, and you'd get an application. So, that's why, so we could have some order and control over it.
How, Kevin, can you have a special event? Maybe you can answer this too. A special event that's above capacity. I mean, how's that not against fire code to have people inside the building that's above capacity? I don't understand that.
Right. Well, we wouldn't approve if it was just we wanted to put. I would say. I would not recommend we approve. We'll allow 500 people in in a confines of a building with 250. But if, again, a special event venue is meant to be indoor, outdoor, multiple buildings, and how big is that going to go?
I want to make the motion that we table this until the next meeting. I think this needs to be massaged more. I agree with Pat to the extent that I have a little bit of heartburn with the HOA part of it. And the reason being is the cities and the HOAs go at each other all the time about that's city property, that's HOA property, that's your problem, that's my problem. Right. Well, if an HOA, again, wants to have food trucks and people come into their parking lot within that little governing body of land, I don't think the city has any purview to say anything about that. Just my personal opinion. You know, the public facilities and the public parks, 100%, I don't think there's a person in this room that disagrees with having a permit process for that. But I also feel that we're kind of inventing an issue when there's not an issue. I don't know of many overflow issues at any of the restaurants. You know what I mean? I can't, and the police chief said he can't think of maybe one time in 25 years. So why don't we just address the public part of it, scrap private, scrap residential, get rid of that, and then if we start having issues in 3 years or whatever, and all of a sudden everybody's having house parties all over Lynnhaven for some reason, then the board can come together and deliberate about that. You know, again, it's giving me heartburn. I understand where the citizens are coming from. I mean, I'm a conservative guy. I don't want people knowing or having to know or me report to somebody about what I'm doing unless it's on public land or public facilities, because that's everybody's. That's not just. But if my HOA in the hammocks wants to have a little block party, you know what I mean? I mean, that's the neighborhood, so everyone's pretty much agreeing to it. I don't know why the city has to come in and say I need a permit for that.
I think the argument is if it's out of control, are the police going to get called?
Well, according to Florida statute, they have the authority, though, to clear the roads, clear the parties as is, which is why I'm saying just public right now. And
well, I guess, I mean, like we talked about on Friday, do you want it to be, again, you have one person in that neighborhood who calls the police and they come and clear the roads, and then now they've just ruined the party. Whereas if you came and got a permit for it, it was approved, and there's really, and the police can say, well, they have a permit for this, and then they're over 500, whatever the threshold is.
And again,
that's the thing. So it's sort of, we're looking at it from the other. We're not trying to restrict what they can do. It's trying to give them a avenue so they can do it without getting interrupted by police or code enforcement or whoever.
But in lawyer speak, that's all conjecture, right? I mean, we don't know that someone's going to have a party in their neighborhood. So, I mean, I'm not asking for an answer. That's rhetorical.
No, I mean, it's not.
I'm just saying
this is setting up a process. So if you wanted to have a party that exceeded what the capacity was of that clubhouse or whatever, the clubhouse in the parking lot, and it exceeded that, you can come get permission from it. That way, if somebody called and complained to the city, we could say, well, they have a permit. That's it. It's just to allow them to do it.
Well, I understand. I'm not throwing a rock at you. You're doing your job. But I'm doing my job too. I want to make sure that we're doing it right. That's the whole thing, and it's a delicate issue, and I don't see a huge rush, and that's the reason I made the motion to let's table it. Let's massage it some more.
I'll second your motion.
Motion has been made with a second. Any discussion from the commission?
I would like to say that I agree with Commissioner Aldridge. Your subdivision, or not your subdivision, your complex, whatever it is, they have big Halloween trunk or treat things, and that's spread out all over. There's just so many things. And I go back to what we said at Friday's meeting. We have an excellent police force. We have ordinance in place for people who park in the middle of the street. We have ordinances in place for all those things. So if someone chooses to call the police, then they would come out. Now, do I think that the current police department that we have would come out and stop an entire event because one person called in because there was a car? I don't believe it. I think they'd come out and say, we need this car moved. I don't think they'd come in and bust up. Are you shaking your head yes or no? Okay. I didn't look, but I assumed you were going like this. So, I mean, I feel that we have ordinances in places for this. So I just don't see all the need for having it say private residential.
Right.
You know, I think city property is wonderful. Yeah. Make them pay, but I don't think we have the right.
I agree. I think the residents definitely been heard, and that's what they want is this just apply to public property. And I forgot what I was going to say now, but lost my train of thought, darn it.
All right. Well, we'll have, if the motion passes, we'll have more time to discuss
Right.
it.
Yeah, this way we can talk about it again.
And, oh, I know what I was going to say. Is maybe we should put language in there that if you do want to get a permit or something or request city services, it can be in there even though it's not public. And the other thing I know we talked about on Friday, I think is an important piece of this whole thing, is the education piece. We need to make sure we educate residents that please feel free to contact the city if they need city services, and they'd be more than helpful to walk you through that process if you really need it. Instead of, because I think people are feeling like they're being pushed or their rights are being violated, and that's the last thing I want residents to feel. So I'll close with that.
All right. Any discussion from the public?
Commissioner Aldridge, are we good here? Can you hear me? Okay. Commissioner Aldridge, you'd spoken during the pre-meeting about potentially having an option for a free permit for residentially zoned properties, which could include HOAs, especially if city services are not needed. Now, if somebody comes in for a permit, what you guys could consider the option when you talk to the next pre-meeting, consider the option of having a free permit if city services are not needed. And then if city services are needed, like for example, next year when I host another block party, you know, if city services are needed for that, maybe there's a cost associated with a permit for that kind of party. Or even if it's a HOA, if city services are going to need it to direct traffic, then maybe there's a fee associated with that. So that's one thing you had spoken about during the pre-meeting that I was actually kind of hoping you guys would angle that, give residents the option to come and seek a permit for free if they need, you know, if they need one or want one. That way they have that coverage that the attorney was talking about, and you know, kind of go from there. So that's something for y'all to consider.
All right. Thank you. Any additional comments?
I know we don't get along as well as Washington, D.C., but we're trying.
That's right.
Jody Moore on Amherst Street. Just a couple of comments. I think, me personally, I just think that permits aren't necessary at all for residential. I just really think people don't want to have to go through that whole process. I think if people want to have a bigger event, you know, if the police are involved, you know, they should approach the police department. You know, if they're going to have this huge wedding, you know, that's something, I think that's more common sense, because I really don't think it's an issue. And I just want to commend the commission for really listening to the people on this. I think they've really spoken out, and I know everybody's very grateful to, you know, have everybody, you know, listen to what they had to say. Also, I just wanted to say too, when it comes to what it says now is private residential. And I also remember in the meeting, it seemed to me that all private property would be excluded from this. That was the take that I had from that. So I don't know when it became just private residential in that whole situation. So again, I don't know when that all got changed, but I think you are going to run into problems. What if somebody just doesn't have a home? What if they have just a big piece of property and they want to have a party on it? You know, you have all these permutations and problems that could arise. So I think, you know, really, I'm glad that you guys are tabling it to give it a, you know, a little bit more thought. And finally, I just want to say I'm very glad that the city is looking at safety issues, and I think that's very important. Of course, you know, and nobody wants the city to get sued. I think that the city shouldn't be afraid to act because they're afraid of being sued all the time. But of course, we don't want anybody to get hurt. But you know, I think about what about Bayhaven, up the road by Mosley. There's safety issues every day when it comes to that. Traffic is backed up, you know, because we all know the infrastructure is not keeping up. So, you know, it seems like we're really worried about these every once in a while safety concerns, but we're not concerned about what about Mill Bayou and what's up at Bayhaven and what's been going on for years and years over by Mosley, because that gets so crowded and the traffic's so backed up. I don't know how an ambulance is going to get back there in those residential neighborhoods either. So we need to look at all the safety issues in all of Lynnhaven. So think about that when you know, deliberate on this issue. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rob Brown. I live in the hammocks. Appreciate you guys tabling it. That was well done, I think, in my opinion. Allows a little bit more time for deliberation. And again, I think each and every one of you heard all the residents. I appreciate everyone, each and every one of you as well. When I reached out to you, I received a response back, either email or phone call. So I certainly appreciate that. I encourage everyone to go review the YouTube. Around 3 to 5 minutes left. The city attorney brought it up on what to vote for, and you'll see it was just residential property, not private property. That came out 3 to 5 minutes left. So you'll see that. You also see what's more concerning, my second point that I sent each one of you, the background check. Look at about 3 to 5 minutes left on the video too. Apparently it's the intent, and I'm asking this, the intent of this city to do a background check to get a permit to rent a park. That seemed to be the case when Chief Ramey brought it up, and he said that's what 45 days are for, so we can get the information of the applicant that applies for the permit, the special events permit, to see basically who they are. I think, Commissioner, you said that no one in the right mind is going to give their right name or something to that extent, but I encourage you to go back and look for that. So now the question is, if a private citizen of this city has a special event, and Mayor, you responded directly to this, will they receive a background check from the police department? And why does it take 45 days, as Chief Ramey mentioned the other day? I don't think renting a park or having a special events should go through a background check. I know you said due diligence, but boy, it just seems like a slippery slope. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. In relation to background check, I did respond to Mr. Brown's email, followed up with Chief Ramey. And when we say due diligence, it's just a simple Google search to see what type of event this person has hosted in the past, and if their events in the past have maybe exceeded what they're telling us on their current application, not necessarily a criminal background check. So just a simple Facebook review, which is what the city actually does now. So it's not putting out any tax dollars to running the criminal background check on anyone that's an applicant for using our city parks. Any additional commentary from the public? City Manager, would you call the vote?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Nesson.
Yes. Motion passed. Agenda item number 11, final reading for ordinance number 1116, fire pension ordinance amendment.
I make a motion we accept.
City Manager has to read it.
Okay.
An ordinance of the City of Lynnhaven amending Chapter 50, Personnel, Article 4, Firefighters Retirement System of the Code of Ordinances, the City of Lynnhaven amending Section 5, 1 through 47, Deferred Retirement Option Plan, providing severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Now I'll make a motion. We accept.
Second.
All right. Motion, second. Any discussion from the commission? Any discussion from the public? City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Mayor Nesson.
Yes. Moving on to our new business. Number 12, discussion and possible approval of city health insurance renewal with the Bentress.
Good evening, Jennifer Hodges, your HR Director for the City of Lynnhaven. It's my pleasure to introduce Owen Wingate, who is President of our Bentress Benefits Administrators. It's time for renewal, and I'm going to turn it over to Owen so he can explain the packages that we have going forward for our employees. Owen?
Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Owen Wingate. I am the president of Bentress. We handle y'all's employee benefit package. And thank you very much for allowing us to do that. We do appreciate it. And so October 1st is our renewal, so we've been working diligently on the process. We originally got an 8.9% rate increase from Florida Blue. We were able to negotiate that down to a 3.5% rate increase, which we were super duper stoked about. We also had a couple of things happen last year that you all probably saw, maybe in the budget, but in June, the Florida Blue gave you a 25% discount off of the medical rates for 1 month because of the COVID. We also got a little bit back from the dental carrier as well, about the same amount, 25%. And we have y'all's health insurances in what they call a pro-share arrangement with Florida Blue. And in the event that we have good claims experience, which you guys have had good claims experience, at the end of the plan year, they actually do a calculation and you get a dividend back. Last year, or this year, we actually got it in about April. We got about $72,000 back from Florida Blue, so we were super duper excited about that. So that's kudos to your employees for really using the benefits well. So all of these things together kind of really allow you to get a very fair increase at the 3.5%. We're still in, every year stands alone on the pro share, so we could be fortunate next year sitting here saying, hey, we got another check, which would be great. We would love to do that. But we put together the plan thinking that it's been a while. Last year, I think you all currently pay 95% of the employee-only health insurance plan. And if you may recall, 2 years ago, we actually increased the percentage on the higher option plan so that it wouldn't be such a big difference in the two plans. It's working well. So we recommend that we renew at the 3.5% and that we continue that 95%. It means basically it's about 44 cents a pay period for the employees that have single coverage, so it's not really going to impact them negatively very much. We did get an increase on the dental insurance, so we got a 14% rate increase on the dental insurance. We were able to obtain a dental plan with MetLife, who we had before. We had Florida Combined Life, and we were able to get a 7% reduction in cost off of what we're paying today. So pretty big swing. So we recommend that we do move to that product. And then everything else that we have, the life insurance, the short and long-term disability insurance, the ancillary products are all in rate guarantee until next year. So we don't really need to deal with any of those unless there's an issue. We're not hearing anything from Jennifer that we're having any issues with any of the products with the staff. So I think that it's our recommendation that we renew the plans as they are with and change the dental insurance and move forward.
Any questions for Abentris?
I just have a question for Ms. Jennifer. Being on our staff, I'm assuming bringing him up, you feel very comfortable with where all the numbers are and with the plan, correct?
Well, and if you look at what health insurance is doing across the board, Owen's correct. The average would be more of a 10 to 15% increase, so being able to hold it down to the 3.5 is excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
The only thing I was going to ask was, I know at the last meeting we talked about how a lot of the employees use the virtual thing or something to save us money. Can we comment on that?
Yep, so we actually have the MD Live. We implemented that, and that we still have that. So we're still moving forward. When we do open enrollment, we will encourage them to continue to use it. We did have some usage last year during the whole coronavirus where they could call in. We want more, okay? We want more people to understand it, more people to share stories about it in between themselves, because it really does work well, so.
The only comment I want to make on that is to commend the city employees, because the more they use that, that helps save the city money. So kudos to them, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion second. Any further discussion from the commission? Any discussion from the public? All right, city manager, call the vote.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Perna,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Agenda item number 13, discussion and possible approval for senior center agreement.
So this is a 10-year lease with the Lynnhaven Senior Activity Club, which also has it's a 20-year lease with a 10-year renewal option. There's virtually no rent. It's $1 a month rent. We did have the city carve out use of the space. When the senior club is not using it, the city has the right to use it for themselves or other events, and specifically has the right to continue to hold commission meetings there until the new commission chambers are built. The city maintains it and keeps the utilities, so it's not a burden on the seniors, but it does give them actually an agreement to refer to and a right to be there for 10 and up to or 20, up to an additional 10 years beyond that.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and second. Any questions, discussion from the commission?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask one legal question. I'm being serious now, really. Is there something in that document that, let's just say, we'll get a whole new board of directors for the senior center? It could happen 7 or 8 years from now or whatever. And if they were to ever just kind of go crazy on us and start doing things over here that weren't acceptable, whatever, that's really vague, but is there something written in there that we could
There is
continue the lease?
Yes, so there is a termination clause, but it's not, nothing overnight, so they would have time to move. I want to say it was like a 1-year termination, so if a future board changed their mind and wanted to terminate it, it would give the senior club time to find alternate space.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from the commission? All right, questions from the, or discussion from the public? All right, City Manager, if you will call the vote.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion.
Commissioner Ward.
I think it was me and Judy. No? Me and somebody. Me and Pat. Yeah, I made the motion, Pat seconded.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes. All right, motion passed. Agenda item number 14, discussion and possible approval of solar tree lease agreement with Gulf Power at Sheffield Park. City Manager.
Yes, Gulf Power did approach us about having a solar tree within Sheffield Park. And we think one of the great things about this is that it promotes clean solar energy in Florida. It also, they just opened up one in Fort Walton, Pensacola, and now Chipley. This will be offered and provide the opportunity to the city at no cost. The city will this solar tree will provide shading, lighting at night, charging of ports of cell phones, laptops for visitors when we visit the amphitheater. It's LED lighting, and it's programmable that we can change the colors according to the events that may go on. The long-term maintenance is, of course, through Florida Power Lighting. Our key role is just to host the site. It's a very interactive solar tree that allows visitors to interact with one another, and it's a great thing to have within the city. So we're asking that the city consider putting the solar tree in Sheffield Park and having it as part of the city of Lynnhaven. Commissioner Aldridge did talk about, this would be something probably great if there were another disaster, that we may also have this as something that we could utilize for electricity. Remember that time, Hurricane Michael, no electricity, but it would be a great thing.
Is there a motion or further discussion on this?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and second. Any further discussion from the commission? Additional questions?
I just have one question. I was noticing in the brochure that they gave us, it says 10-year limited warranty. What happens after that? I mean, will the city have to pay to have it fixed or painted or?
It actually says in this maintenance agreement that they are responsible for the equipment and the maintenance of it.
And we're not, we can have it yanked out if they don't.
That's exactly right. It actually says that this in this agreement. Mm-hmm.
And there won't be any glitter on it either.
No, I know.
All right, any additional questions from the commission? Comments from the public? If you, yeah. You got to turn it back on.
It's glitching on you.
There it is.
How about now? There we go. All right. Ryan Scray, Missouri Avenue again. I read through the leasing agreement, and in section 20, it talks about tax credits, financial incentives, and sale of energy. I just wanted to clarify, in that section, it says, furthermore, any and all solar power electricity produced by or relating to the equipment, energy, and the right to utilize same shall be for the sole benefit of the lessor, which is the city, and any energy consumed by the lessor shall not impact the lessor's retail electric bill from leasee. But then it additionally says, in consideration for agreement into this agreement, lessor shall be billed for the solar power generated by the equipment on the demised property at the customer's existing rate for the sole and exclusive use of the lessor at the applicable demised premises, and is not to be sold or used by any other party. So that seems to conflict. So are we going to pay for this electricity that it's generating, and if we use it, or are we not? So that's just one thing I want clarified.
Thank you.
I mean, I can touch on that. I mean, so basically, solar is just an alternate energy source. So just like you have the steam plant or coal plant or whatever, obviously we pay for it. So we pay our power bill, but it's for our benefit. So it doesn't contradict itself. So so we're generating that power to benefit us, but at the same time, you'll have a charge on the bill just like if it was coming from a nuclear plant or a coal plant or whatever. It's just an alternate energy source. So you'd still get a bill for it. And
Does it come in like the form of a credit, kind of like a home, where you're not literally getting you're basically they're replacing your money with the energy that they're buying back from you on your bill, if that makes sense?
No, yeah, so you're saying, they're not buying it back from us. We're basically allowing an alternate energy source on our property, but we're still gonna, it'll be the city's energy and electricity to use and allow people to plug into or whatever you want to do.
So basically, anything you plug into it, the city would have to pay the energy use on it, but what are you going to plug into it? A cell phone, an iPad,
Right, exactly.
some small stuff like that. It's going to be, I would think, very minimal expense.
I have a electric car. I'm gonna go plug it in
If you can get it up there,
every night, free gas.
you can drive it into the park. I liked what, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I liked what you said earlier, Commissioner Warwick. Solar power is a thing of the future. It's already here. It's not of the future, I guess. But you explained something to me that either you were feeding me a line or telling me the truth. But you were explaining that even though the city would have to pay a minimal fee for the few cell phones and whatnot that are getting plugged into this, if we were to ever start creating how do I want to say that? Creating an overage of solar power, that would go to the city buildings, or
No.
where's it going to go? Well,
No,
you explain it.
So basically what I was saying was if this incentive goes around all Bay County, and let's say they do a whole bunch of them here in Lynnhaven and other cities, it could potentially create enough power that maybe it would ensure that the rates don't increase or could possibly decrease them in the future. And I don't have any of the numbers on that, but because it's generating power for the Gulf Power. That's what I was getting at. So it doesn't work like a residential household where you have net metering and you can figure out, okay, this is how much extra energy I have, and after the end of the year, you have extra energy and you get money from that. It doesn't work like that.
Right, yeah. It's just less reliance on coal or nuclear or other sources.
Right.
Additional comments from the public? All right. City Manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. All right. Motion passed. Agenda item 15, discussion and possible approval of Resolution 2021-07360, authorizing the proposed assessment role and mailing of notices of the initial stormwater assessment.
Right, so this is our first public step and document with the stormwater assessment, which we've talked about at multiple workshops and multiple meetings, it seems like. With this initial resolution will do is follow our assessment ordinance, and it'll set forth the authority to get the letters mailed out and get the notice published in the News Herald in time for a August 24th final approval, and authorizes the staff with our consultants to prepare that preliminary assessment roll, which, like we talked about, will show the equivalent units and what your potential assessment is going to be. So this initial resolution authorizes that first roll, and authorizes the advertising by mail and publication, and sets the final hearing.
Is there a motion to?
We need to read that by title. I know it's long.
Okay. Resolution number 2021-07360, a resolution of the City Commission of Lynnhaven, Florida, relating to the delivery and funding of stormwater-related essential services within the city, providing for stormwater assessment within the entire area of the city, estimating the service cost to provide stormwater-related essential services and capital equipment and facilities, establishing the method of assessing the stormwater-related service costs against real property that will be specifically benefited, directing the city manager to prepare a preliminary stormwater assessment roll, establishing a public hearing to consider imposition of the proposed stormwater assessments, directing the provisions of notice in connection therewith, and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, second. Discussion?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. On this here, on the assessments that will go out, then we're having a public hearing, so this is not anything for everybody to panic about, because we're just sending out assessments right now. And then I read the order in which everything will take place. But I really believe that if we don't do something about our stormwater situation, I mean, every commission talks about it, and they talk and they talk and they talk. And I think it's time for us to really get serious about it and make something happen. I get people complaining all the time about my ditch is backed up. I call, nobody comes out. Water's running back in my yard. It's all about stormwater. And I was going to ask the city manager this question too. If we currently, this is a statement, but tell me if it's true. We currently do not have a stormwater fund, correct? Like in the finances, a line item.
We have a stormwater fund, but it doesn't generate enough funding to fund stormwater. So we have to borrow from water and sanitation to make stormwater work.
Okay, so if this does get passed by, October 1st or whenever, that will all these funds will go into that stormwater fund.
That is exactly right. And we have a way which we have put together this stormwater plan for the next 3 to 4 years. We'll use all the money that comes from, if this is passed, all of the stormwater money that will come from this non-ad valorem assessment, and still be able to take a small amount from water and sanitation. And then the next year, it will go down until stormwater stands on its own. And that's really the goal. Stormwater needs to stand on its own so that some of these projects that we have been lingering on for years, neighborhoods have been flooding for years, we take care of those things.
I just, like I said, I think we need to do something about stormwater. It's way past due. But I think we're also on the hook as a commission. If this passes, we have to talk the talk and walk the walk. That means people can't be constantly complaining because they've got water running everywhere, not after they've been assessed. And this should create quite a chunk of money by the end of the year.
And it's important to know, this has to be used for stormwater improvement. So it'll alleviate, like the city manager said, having to do transfers from water or sewer or general fund. So it'll free up, hopefully, those budgets going forward.
Any discussion from the public? Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I was attending all these meetings on this, but I had one question. As I look at the development orders that are coming out daily, weekly, monthly, minutely in this town, I notice that the stormwater is by the owner. Will they be assessed also?
I didn't hear you. It's what?
The stormwater on these development orders are handled by the owner of the property. Will this be inclusive to they're having to pay the assessment also? You're building it, and it says on the development order, they check it, it says stormwater by the owner. He has the pond. He's supposed to contain all the stormwater on his property. Is he going to be assessed also?
Yeah. And, I mean, I can answer
My
that. I mean, the answer, like you're saying, is right. You know, with the new stormwater in the state of Florida, every new development is supposed to handle their own stormwater. You'll see developments having to put their own ponds in and things. The answer to your question is yes, they will still be assessed. This assessment based on the methodology that we've been explained on the impervious surface versus non-impervious surface. Something to talk to the consultants about and look at moving forward is if, and I think what you're alluding to is a mitigation credit program. That has not been, the consultants did not build that into their model, and I wasn't here for all the early discussions. That is something that's a possibility if you start looking at that to say, okay, you've put a major pond on your property, you know, can I get some sort of mitigation credit for that? So that is a program you guys could put in place going forward. It is not for this year. It's not built in.
It's not a bad thought.
It won't be? They won't be charged the assessment?
Yes,
They will be charged the assessment.
Will be charged the assessment.
If
In
they,
addition to them doing their own?
right, doing their development, I mean, putting the stormwater in the development is part of developing the property. They would all be subject to this assessment based on their impervious surface. There is an avenue if the city so chooses going forward to grant mitigation credit for that, but that we have not done that.
Thank you. Additional questions from the public?
Okay, almost double tax rate.
Well, your time is up, sir. Additional questions from the public? Not. City Manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. All right, item number 16, discussion and possible approval of resolution 2021-7361, approving to maintain the city waters fees at the same rate as the previous year, effective October 1, 2021.
A resolution maintaining rates and charges for residential and commercial water system and providing an effective date. This resolution just says that the water rates for the coming fiscal year will stay the same.
So approved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions from the commission? Discussion from the public?
How come it's not being reduced? Just wondering.
Because we passed a resolution 2.5 years ago that the commission put in place that it would be set at 4.5%. And actually, it's supposed to be increased every year at 4.5%, but we made the decision not to do that.
Any further discussion from the public? City Manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. Motion passed. Item number 17, discussion and possible approval of resolution 2021-07-362, approving to maintain the city's solid waste collection fees at the same rate as the previous year, effective October 1, 2021.
Resolution number 2021-07326, a resolution maintaining the rate structure for residential and commercial solid waste collection and providing an effective date. This is the same thing here.
Move to approve.
Second.
I think Mr. Ward got it in. All right. Any discussion from the commission? Discussion from the public? City manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. Agenda item number 18, discussion and possible approval of resolution number 2021-07363, approving to maintain the city's wastewater system fees at the same rate as the previous year, effective October 1, 2021.
Resolution number 2021-07363, a resolution maintaining rates and charges for residential and commercial wastewater system and providing an effective date. This also applies to the wastewater.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, any discussion from the commission?
Yes, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I think it was imperative for us to vote to keep these fees the same as they were last year. It's a small way to help the residents, and again, it kind of balances out the assessment for stormwater. That's all. Thank you.
Any discussion from the public? City manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. Agenda item number 19, discussion about putting an RFQ out for a transportation engineering firm. I know this is something that came up during our planning workshop. And so our city staff has gone out, city manager, planning director have gone out and have brought us information back. And so, city manager?
Yes, we just wanted to get really approval for you all to decide whether or not this is the right you wanted to go. I know this was discussed in strategic planning. It was discussed again about having the transportation engineer. Amanda has made some recommendations. You can come on up, Amanda, if you want to talk about the recommendations that we discussed. But this would help out in the areas when we do paving, any of the street projects in terms of ingress and egress into any of those subdivisions. We have maybe a third opinion. And Commissioner Tender was very, very the one that kind of started this whole discussion about this.
Yeah, my idea really was that because we have more growth now taking place in the city, and it looks as though it's going to be continuing, plus we have ongoing traffic problems, seeing as how we have corridors, and a lot of the traffic that comes through Lynnhaven is basically using Lynnhaven's roads as corridors and is not actually generated by Lynnhaven. That's causing problems now for people that want to develop in Lynnhaven because their traffic is being looked at. For instance, when we had those apartments coming at the Mill Bayou area, some of those people that came out to talk didn't live in Lynnhaven. They lived in the county, but they were concerned because they have to go onto the same roads as the newly created traffic would go on. And so our developments could be held hostage because of other people's traffic. So I feel that what we need is to have a company or a couple of companies that specify in transportation engineering, and it's not so much, roadway improvements, it's not so much the pavements and the sidewalks, not that kind of engineering. It's looking at traffic volumes and how we can relieve traffic volumes, what kind of projects can perhaps relieve the volume, maybe look at improvements that could be made on parallel roads to take some of that traffic off really busy roads. If we had a contract with an engineering company that specify in that kind of transportation planning, transportation engineering, when we have projects submitted to us and they submit their trips that will be generated by the project, and then how those trips will be distributed. By trips, I mean new vehicle trips. We would be able to, just as we do right now with the stormwater, we would be able to, when we're doing our review, we could send that out for review to someone who was an expert in that area, and they could review those trips and number one, tell us whether they're actually realistic. What they're telling us is actually how it is. If there's a problem, they can flag the problem because they'll be looking at the existing volume left on the road, and then that developer would have to look at possible improvements to relieve the problem. Right now, we don't have anybody with that kind of expertise. So my recommendation was perhaps we're at that point where we need to get somebody on board. Plus, if we do have city projects, we'll have someone that can help us with looking at how our projects are going to impact the roadway systems.
Also for future use as well. I mean,
Sorry?
future
Yes.
use as well. That's one of the really major things, because this commission has inherited some things, again, that probably if we had that third opinion or some other opinions, maybe not. So I think that this will be very helpful.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Motion to approve. I think it's important. The traffic's an issue down there. We need to be doing everything we can as a city to try to alleviate the issue, and I think it's a good first step.
I'll second it.
All right. Motion second.
Go ahead if you.
Commissioner Tender.
I just wanted to say that I think this is something we've probably needed for a long time, to have our own traffic engineer, because I think they are a breed all of their own.
They are.
And I think that I wish we would have had it for Mill Bayou for the hours that we needed it for. I know you want to add to that, but here's what a lot of people might think is a small project. And I also think it's very important that the developer foot the bill for these folks. I think it should be something that we go, hey, we're going to have this. But the other thing, it seems small, but I think it's going to get out of hand really quick, and that is the new Parkview apartments on 17th Street. They're adding 50 new townhomes, is that correct?
Yes.
That's 100 cars. There's already it's conceivable that there's 100 cars out there already in the first part, phase 1, phase 2. I just can't fathom 200 cars going up and down 17th Street. And I don't know how you can do it. I'm not an engineer, but it just seems to me that is going to create a problem at some point.
Commissioner Perno.
I just wanted to ask: are we going to be setting a precedence here to do on development orders, to do traffic study at different peak hours than?
We can ask for, I think when this was discussed at a workshop, it was suggested that we ask for the PM and the AM peak hours.
But just the fact that if we approve just to get RFQs and we have them at our disposal, that's what we're voting on now, right?
Yeah, because
just having them there.
When we have land use amendments, it used to be a requirement with a future land use map amendment that transportation concurrency was looked at. The state used to require it. They did also with schools and parks and recreation. They no longer require that now, but just because they don't require something doesn't mean that it isn't something that is for the city's benefit to look at, to see what future conditions will be created by taking a large-scale land use, let's say, to the state. So if we have them, then we can decide, is it a development order? I think it's a good idea to get the information to require them to tell us when they apply for a development order what the current level of service is on the roads that they're going to be impacting, and then how that will change. Oftentimes, the level of service won't be failing, but it will help us also monitor the traffic volumes and where we are with the traffic volumes, and then identify any projects that might help relieve congestion at intersections and that kind of thing.
All right. Thank you. All right. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion from the public?
Ryan Scragan. I think this is a great idea, long overdue. Appreciate the work that the planning director and city manager have done. My primary and only concern I have with this is that I hope we don't limit ourselves to a single firm. Not every firm is created equal. I'd like to actually see us consider giving out agreements to more than one firm, 2 or 3 even, guaranteeing them nothing, but giving us the access to leverage these different firms that best suits the projects that we have coming up. So we're not, pigeonholing or siloing ourselves off to one firm and missing out on, second opinions if we need it, or even, somebody that has niche experience in a certain part. And then if we didn't award to that company, we can't get that. So just something to strongly consider. What's that?
Yeah, it's a continuing contract, just like we always.
Yeah, just having pricing agreements in place so we know how much it's going to cost if we want to utilize them. And then if we decide to utilize them, we pay that. And my expertise in contracts management, 12 years, DOD, having something like that, having your options available like that, you know how much it's going to cost if you use them. If you don't want to use that one company, X, you can use company Z because maybe they have niche in the project that you're trying to do. So
Yes.
I thought I heard you say that Amanda already had 2 or 3.
yeah, she had
Firms.
suggested maybe even 2, and I actually.
We're going to suggest that, just
Right.
like we have our current
Yeah,
engineering, we have 3 engineering firms. Of course, we wouldn't, just have one. So it'll come back to the commission, and you will make that decision.
Yeah, my
Thank you.
concern is that if we only choose one, then we're stuck with just that one. Let's give ourselves the options.
Thank you. Additional comments from the public? All right. City Manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender.
Yes,
No, wait.
sure.
Let me pull that out. Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. Motion passed. Agenda item number 20, discussion of the Pinnacle Housing Project. I believe all of us have met with Base Solutions, and so hopefully we're all up to speed on the Pinnacle Housing Project. Also from our last planning session with Amanda, also realizing that within our codes, land use codes, that we are, I guess as a commission, required to ensure that we do have affordable housing in our area.
Thank you, Ms.
Mayor, is this in the agenda? I didn't see anything on the bottom of the link.
It's just it's a discussion. So it's a presentation from.
Mayor, Commission, thank you for giving us a few minutes this evening to present to you. For the record, my name is Shay Catrett. I'm president of Base Solutions, and my remarks will be very brief, but I'd be remiss if I did not introduce our Pinnacle team. And I'll ask our team members that are here, if they will, please stand. We've got several in the back. We've got representatives from DAG Architects. They're doing the architecture work for us. Owen Gibson, Jim Tatum. Panhandle Engineering is also part of the local team. Jim Slonina and Chris Forehand are here. Counts Real Estate, we've got Jim Everett, Charlie Haas, Timothy Curl is part of the team. And Bernie Arribas, who is part of the management team for Professional Management, Inc. And then on behalf of Base Solutions, myself and Ray Dubuque are here. Our entire team is dedicated to this project. We believe in it. We're committed to Lynnhaven and to the Hammock Springs project. And at this time, I would like to introduce to you the Regional Vice President of Pinnacle Housing, Mr. Tim Wheat, who will present more details about this project. And then at the end, we'll be happy to entertain questions that any of you may have. Tim?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Tim Wheat, and I'm with Pinnacle Communities. And I thank you for your time. I'm aware of the obligation we have as being the last item on the agenda, so we'll try to be concise. We appeared before the Commission last October in 2020. Obviously, there's a new commission seated, but we asked for this same level of support to develop Pinnacle at Hammock Springs. And we were literally this close to prevailing in the last Florida housing highly competitive funding cycle. With the city's expression of this local government area of opportunity, which we're asking this commission to allow us to do for the next application cycle on August 26, it puts us in a very good position to be funded by Florida Housing, which we were and actually ranked by the Board of Directors, but an appeal from another application in Bay County overturned a scoring decision that the state made on their application, and not as a consequence, they knocked us out. Why did they knock us out? That's kind of interesting. And I don't want to get into all the weeds, but Florida Housing, as Ray Dubuque, who's a past board member of Florida Housing Finance Corp., past chairman of the board, will tell you, and he's going to make a few closing remarks, is Florida Housing rewards persistence by cities that commit to developments over a period of time. So when we, if we're fortunate enough to receive your support again for Pinnacle at Hammock Springs this year, we'll be able to apply as a prior submitted development preference, which gives us more potential funding opportunities and more potential slots. So this time I can come before the commission and say, congratulations, our partnership and the Pinnacle brand in providing affordable and workforce housing here can continue in the future here in Lynnhaven. So just wanted to give you a little background about that. I think you may be familiar with our 3 existing communities that we've developed here between 2005, of course, slightly interrupted in 2018, but fully restored by 2020. And then Pinnacle at Hammock Square in 2011, Pinnacle at Hammock Crossings in 2018. What we're proposing, don't we have a slide in here, Shay, with the map of the properties? Let's see. I'm going to skip forward there. Just to give you an orientation of our proposed development site, which is on the corner of Minnesota and 26, just north of the existing Pinnacle at Hammock Place community. And then Pinnacle at Hammock Square and Crossings are near the Publix on the west side of 77. So to skip back, what we're proposing on the 19-acre site that we have under a purchase and sale agreement is an initial phase of about 90 to 100 units of family affordable housing. And we're really emphasizing a sort of a colonial revival design with the columns and shutters, try to give it an interesting, different but similar look to our other brands in the community. A 1, 2, and 3 bedroom blend for families of varying sizes will be energy efficient, green certified by the National Green Building Council. We've gotten the silver designation for Pinnacle at Hammock Crossings. And one of the interesting things we do that I didn't talk about last October is that we have a home buyer incentive program where residents who've lived in our community for at least 2 years can come to us and get a 5% rebate on their rent paid during their term of tenancy to buy a home for the first time. And we've had people leave all 3 of our communities here to move on to home ownership here in Lynnhaven, and we definitely want to continue that. So affordability ranges based on income. For a family of 4, it's $41,600, but for a single person, it's just under $30,000 a year, and it stair steps depending on the family size. And those would be our projected rents, and we do set aside about 10% of the rents as required by the Florida Housing Finance Corporation at lower income levels. So, and this is fairly consistent across our entire platform. So what we're asking for, and Shay went over this with you, and what we asked for last time, is for the city to designate our proposed application a local government area of opportunity application. And with that, the city would make a funding commitment, which the county has agreed to fund on behalf of the city, of $340,000. You would not have to fund that until the development is complete. So with that acknowledgement of that funding commitment, Florida Housing puts us in a different tier of competition. And then we're also, as a repeat local government area of opportunity, we have an even better chance of winning this year. So that's our request, and we hope that the commission will have an opportunity to consider that funding request favorably between now and August 26th. I know that the last question that Shay's told me, the mayor and a number of the commissioners asked about our second phase, if we're able to go forward with this first phase. And we think after developing all of our Pinnacle brand communities here in Lynnhaven, and that it's time for a senior housing development for that second phase, and we're prepared to do that. What's good about doing affordable or housing for seniors on fixed income is that the first phase of the family development, if we're successful this year, will help carry some of the backbone costs for the senior development of the future, because senior developments tend to be more 1 and 2 bedrooms, and thus less, with the restricted rents and incomes, a little trickier to finance. But if we're able to do the family development with Pinnacle at Hammock Springs in this coming year, it'll make it easier for us in the next year to come back to the commission and say, we're able to do Pinnacle at Hammock Springs Phase 2 senior housing. And we look forward to doing that because we definitely think there's a need in the community. I'm going to just ask Ray Dubuque to make a few closing remarks on behalf of Base Solutions and the Pinnacle at Hammock Springs team.
I just wanted to ask, should this move forward, when would it be finished, completed?
We believe late 2023. Thereabouts.
So a couple of years down the road.
Yeah, we got to go through the whole approval process with you. We'd be, going through the whole development approval process like any other development. This gives us a leap on getting the financing going. Could we outperform that deadline? Possibly. But usually it would take us most of the rest of this year and into 2022 to do the design and the approval processes with the city, and then, 12 to 14 months of construction.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Mr. Mayor. My name is Ray Dubuque. I live at 3001 Kings Point Harbor, Panama City. I had the privilege of working on Florida Housing Board of Directors, Florida Housing Finance Corporation. I term limited out this last March. That was a blessing, and then also it was a sad time because I got to learn a lot. And one thing I got to learn from my experience is I looked at housing projects all over the state, all the way from Key West to Pensacola. And the Pinnacle group, the houses they built, I can assure you are some of the top-notch quality facilities that are built. And not only that, but I used Lynnhaven several times in talking to other city government because not all city government is willing to have affordable housing in their city. And I think you've seen the quality of the housing you have here. And that's all I encourage them is come to Lynnhaven and look at what's there. Just look at what's there. They do a quality project. I'm not on their payroll, so I'm not up here. I'm just telling you from what I saw with 8 years on Florida Housing Finance Corporation. So any question about Florida Housing Finance, I'll be glad to get you in touch with the staff over there. But one thing, when he said how long it was going to take, a lot of that time is Florida Housing. One thing I couldn't get them to do was move any quicker than they did when I went on the board, but I tried. So thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions you have. I hope we kept it as brief as we could. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Pinnacle Housing? Is there a motion to authorize the city manager to move forward and establish that agreement with Pinnacle Housing?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All right. Motion second. Any further discussion from the commission?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Any discussion from the public?
It's Denise Kearns, and I live on 715 Mississippi. I'm concerned that I see the people who are over near the Publix. There are no sidewalks for these people. When I pull out to take a left to make that light where the Walmart is from Publix, because it's easier than the confusion on that road, you can't really see if someone's walking. And that concerns me. Because if we're making this for people who don't have a lot of money, there could be mothers who are staying home, walking their babies. I think there needs to be some sidewalk situation happening here. And that's the same thing I feel about the one that's at Publix, because there were no sidewalks built for those people. They're walking in the road. You can't see to the right. If there's a car coming, you almost have to edge out, look, and pray. So I'm just saying, I think that sidewalks, runoff water, and all of that has to go with this. These are people with low income that need to be able to walk, push a stroller, and do those kind of things. So if we're talking low income and that's what we want to help, then that needs to be in your plan, to me. But that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the public? No additional comments. City Manager, will call the vote.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes. Motion passed. Meeting adjourned.